Hey, before we start the show, we had a little quick announcement. My mom, Julie Richards, is starting her own private practice.
Yay!
Yay! We just wanted to let our listeners know all across Columbus that Mom is starting her own private practice. You can check that out at jhrcounseling.com.
And I'm excited because November is a new month and a new season. It's a good time to think about how you're healing and growing and the things that have great meaning for you. I love working with developmental and relational trauma. I have some specialties in EMDR, in trust-based relational intervention, which is TBRI, and Pia Melody's model of developmental and relational trauma. So I'm excited to get started in this new business.
And adoption stuff.
Oh, yeah,
and
adoption.
There's all sorts of things. Yeah, if you actually go to our website, you can see a whole list of things that she covers. So feel free to reach out at jhrcounseling.com. I'm just kidding.
They really try.
Oh, it was crazy. We were actually talking with this guy, Charles Roberts. And I keep wanting to say Charles Xavier, and I'm not sure why. Is that from X-Men? So, oh, he was like, you might feel some stress in like your neck and your back and how you're holding yourself. I'm just like feeling all this stress as he's just talking about all this trauma. I'm like cracking my neck just by talking to this guy because it's crazy. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Community Roots, a place where we gather in community to talk about mental health so we can travel the journey of life together. I'm Samuel Richards.
I'm Lisa Gilchrist, and we are off the beaten path today with Brittani Orr. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So we just want to take some time, get to know you, share your story a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're going?
Okay. So when I was a young girl, I had a calling on my life for mental health. I would always have dreams that I would be like some type of counselor, therapist. And I didn't start actually walking into that journey until about 3.5 years ago when I went through my divorce. And like, Lord, what? You're going to make me go back to school for like social work or like counseling and things like that. And I didn't really understand why he wanted me to do that because I thought, crazy life for kids. How am I going to do all this? That just looked kind of crazy. I started college that following semester. And it was crazy. I mean, I didn't really know how I was going to do it every day. And it was a struggle, because I was in and out of court, with my ex and just, the kids, and they had their own schedules and things like that. But it was interesting, years go by and, I've just constantly met amazing people, even from, being in college, to my psychology professor, it was like every time I encountered myself with someone, it was someone that connected me to my next destination. I mean, my psychology professor became my mentor, whose best friend ended up being the administrative on an administrative team at a counseling office that I end up working at.
It sounds like a lot of winding journey experiences, different people to connect with, looking to the community in a time where you really needed to be searching. So that's a lot going on.
Yeah, so where are you now?
So right now I'm just focusing on school. I will graduate next year in the fall.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I just graduate. I graduate in the fall, just constantly just like finding that where my place is in this world and just how I can help.
Like a big school journey, a big family journey, having 4 kids in the midst of all that and that mental health journey and where that has taken you and how you've been able to invest and go to school for that and bring back some of those dreams and keep them alive.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Well, I was curious, like, you definitely seem like a strong woman. Is that coming from your parents? Is that something that you found growing up, like learning through other means? Where did you find that? Where did you learn that?
I would say my mother. She was a single mother. Definitely my grandmother. Looking up to her. She's also a very strong woman. And just constantly like I said, the core of our whole family, we grew up in church. So I think that has a lot to do with most of how we got through a lot of the journeys that we've been through, is just constantly just praying, falling on your face, fasting, opening your body up to just hearing from God and just, letting him get you through pretty much anything. So
being able to surrender
mm-hmm.
to yourself and say, whatever it is that you have, that's what I want.
Yes. And just asking him, I would pray prayers like, just take everything away from me that is not like you, and just I want to have eyes for only you. I want to walk the path that you want me to walk, Lord, and just constantly praying that, it's got me to where I am today.
This definitely has boldness in those words. Mm-hmm. And kind of digging deep and just looking back into yourself and say, what have I done? How have I been able to be a part of this? And how is my mental health even coming back to that idea of, I want to be able to invest in others. I want to, go towards that in my career, but just without all of that, just kind of acknowledging how you've seen yourself thrive in that part as well.
So the mental health part of it is that, there were times when I would not know, I don't know. I think, it's crazy because people always look to me like I'm just this strong person. And I don't know really how, it's so weird because if I was looking at my own self, I would say, I don't know how you're doing it. It would be times when I would have panic attacks, anxiety, depression, suicide ideations. Constantly I wanted to give it all up. I would, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't seeking a counselor. So it was a lot of spiritual warfare between God and the devil. I don't know, you know how you see movies, they have the devil on one side and then got the angel on the other. It was really like that a lot of the times. And just I didn't recently start seeking a counselor until recently. And just it was a lot of burnout and being overwhelmed. Everything that I was doing, it wasn't a bad thing. Me going to school, working 2 jobs, taking care of these 4 kids by myself, back and forth in court, a lot of that was overwhelmed. I was very overwhelmed, which gave me anxiety, which turned into depression, which turned into, I don't even want this anymore. I want to end it all. Nights where I would stay up and just, I would want to leave.
Too much.
It got
too much.
A lot. And it was a lot.
And being able to recognize those moments, but then say, here I am now. I can be here now.
Right.
And even what is that like to just really be on that other side?
Yeah, definitely when they say self-care is the best care, I'm definitely practicing that a lot. Writing. I love to write. I love to just be outside. I love to enjoy family time and just honestly being in the moment. and it's so vague, people saying being in the moment. I mean, sometimes I have to just put my phone on do not disturb, or, you know, and really just embrace that moment with the kids, you know. And so, and seeking therapy. I mean, people think that counseling is, you know, bad. I want to be a counselor, so I want to seek counsel. You know, they always say the best counselors always seek counsel. So I love my therapist. We work on a lot of things, and I have a lot of strategies that help me whenever I'm feeling anxious or depressed, or if I go to that really dark place again. I know what to do to get me back to that
the present.
Yeah. For sure.
Could you tell us just about anxiety? Like, how do you recognize you're getting anxious, and what are one of the ways you've coped with it? I wanted to say I feel similarly in some of your experiences with going to school, having 2 jobs, and I just worked myself out, and so I've learned my signs for depression and stuff. So I was curious about your journey.
With anxiety, just constantly worrying, making sure that what I'm doing is actually gonna pan out the way, you know, either God sees it or I see it, you know. I mean, just severely worrying about everything. I worry if I'm a good mom. I worry if, you know, if what I'm doing is if I'm going to be able to be an impact to another single mom, and, you know, that was in my shoes, or, you know, which makes me constantly think about it over and over. Every little thing I do, I'm constantly worrying, which makes my heart race, makes my palms sweat, makes me get a headache. I get really bad stomach aches, and when I'm anxious, and then I don't want to eat, which makes me depressed. I mean, it's just like a vicious cycle.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's like really a vicious cycle.
Exactly.
You know, it's just like, it sounds so bad even talking about it. You know, it's just like, oh, I don't want to be there. You know, but it is real. We all get there. So, and I feel like we all should talk about it. It is not bad to talk about it. You know, and it's just, we should talk about it more to help each other. I feel like someone's story can help the other story, and if we all come together and are there for each other, I mean, that's what makes this world a better place, you know.
So what strategies do you do to get out of your anxious moments and feeling your sweaty palms and your stomach ache?
Listening to Christian music, closing my eyes. My counselor says do some deep breathing, close my eyes and imagine my happy place. And my happy place is Florida, being on the beach, putting my feet in the sand. Like,
can you feel the sand?
Yes. Like, when you do that, when you practice that, it's almost like you actually feel the wind of the beach. And that is what gets me going. That's what gets me back to, oh, okay, I don't feel so anxious anymore.
I think this idea of like the anxiety and the depression, again, this might be another reference, and I don't know if I've talked about it before, but I think of the toy Stretch Armstrong, where like he just, oh, you're laughing at me. That's okay.
That's $1 in the reference jar.
I liked the toy, but he had arms that could like be pulled really far, and I think of anxiety pulling out this way, pulling us way into the future, and, you know, the depression hand, like yanking it back. And we're balancing this idea between, you know, knowing you have access to being present in the moment when you're with your family and your kids and looking out for their needs. It's really hard to be over analytical about every little thing. So when you have those moments, being out in nature, you know, going for walks, putting on some music, you get to be in that moment. Putting yourself in the beach brings you back to the moment where the anxiety, the physical symptoms that show up in your body that are there, you know, to kind of alarm you, to be an alert, to like, something doesn't feel right here. And so being able to recognize, I think, even that pattern, that vicious cycle that you're talking about, put a pause on it, put a stopper on it, and kind of reevaluate where you are and say, where is this? Is this actually really big? Or am I making it really small, or is this the right size? We call that maximizing and minimizing behaviors to help cope, but not always the best strategy.
I liked what you said about how we should just talk about it, because I think that everyone who is, well, most people who are alive today know what anxiety feels like, because we have so many deadlines with too much work to do, and that anxiety builds up. So I think it's important that we have these conversations with people, and I really appreciate you explaining your experience and being vulnerable, because that's one of the ways that we can all learn and grow, by sharing just what we're feeling and what we're thinking. And there's a trend not to do that and to pretend like we're perfect or that we just have it all together. But it's really important to talk about things. Everything isn't always happy.
Right.
And everybody isn't perfect. And we're just humans, so it's okay. And let's reach out and talk to each other whenever it's hard, instead of pretending like we've got it together.
Yeah. We are real people and we have real needs. I think, too, when we talk about openness, I think about creating space, for those emotions or for that anxiety or for that experience of depression, and saying, there needs to be some space, too. I mean, we talk about our emotions and how to feel them, and, sometimes how they feel like they could take up this whole room, or they could feel really small. So the idea of being open and allowing space for your emotions, to connect with your emotions as well, and have space for them and be honored for your journey and for how you've come through it.
This reminds me of our episode with Sarah Wakefield. She talked about whenever she was feeling like she needed support, she just reached out and just started trusting people and creating those spaces of just, can we just talk and be real with each other instead of not real or fake or just on the surface. Or I don't want to talk about the weather. I've had a crap day and I want to talk about it.
Yeah. And even finding safety, finding people who are safe, and finding people who, sometimes we walk through life, we feel very misunderstood. And so when you run into those people, you kind of realize, okay, but I want to find someone who's going to be able to take the time to understand me, and that when they understand and I feel understood, that then we can go somewhere and we can talk about it, because there's an understanding of where we've been, or there's that empathy piece of, whoa, that's a hard place to be.
So your book is coming in 2020.
Yes.
What is it about?
My book is about a little girl, which I wrote the book about my daughter, my youngest daughter, who's 4. When we were going through that, she didn't understand. She was so young, back and forth to mommy's house, to daddy's house. Her brain was so jumbled, and she constantly asked, is it mommy's turn or is it daddy's turn? Is it mommy's turn or daddy's turn? And it was so confusing to her that I wrote this book based off of this little girl, that other kids, I wrote it in her eyes, for other little kids that have to go through, mommy's turn or daddy's turn, or mommy's turn or daddy's turn. That way, other kids that are going through the divorce right now, or families that are going through what I went through, it's a read, and I wrote it from the heart. And like I said, God gave me the words to write in this book. So it's definitely to minister to families that are going through what I went through at a hard time. Because when we were going through it, there were no books that could relate to my story, that could relate to my kids. I would go to the library. I seen nothing like that. So I wrote this book so that people can have access to read something so heartfelt, that if their children are constantly asking, is it mommy's turn yet? Is it daddy's turn yet? Because just as hard as it is for parents, it is so hard for those little babies and their little brains to wrap around the craziness of what their parents are going through. So that's exactly why I wrote my book. And God gave me the dream. God gave it to me. I literally wrote it in a dream and just woke up one day and wrote it all on paper. And it should be out next year sometime, 2020. Fingers crossed. June.
It's a big undertaking.
Yeah, so right now I'm working with Halo Publishing. My illustrator, his name is Chad Thompson. He's He used to work for Walt Disney, so he did all my pictures.
Cool.
So I'm very excited because my pictures, I feel like, are really beautiful. Really tells my story. But yeah, it's just about a little girl. Like I said, I wrote it about my daughter. So just because she was so confused in the beginning of, I mean, she still acts to this day, you know, if I pick her up when it's daddy's turn, she's like, wait, I thought it is so confusing, but sometimes we make it work. So, but that's how it's going to be. I mean, divorce is, you know, we have to make it work. We have to go through and to have a great relationship, or at least try to build that relationship with your ex. It's so important, so that sometimes my ex will call me and say, I am running late. I really need you to get them. And I will go and get them for him, and vice versa. He does the same for me, but it took us so long. Communication is definitely key.
Yeah, my partner's an attorney, and she said if you're going through divorce, get along with the ex, because otherwise it's going to get really difficult.
Yes, so important.
So that's a lawyer guarantee.
That's good.
Yeah. I imagine maybe bringing some clarity for yourself and being able to write that book. And I imagine the emotional intensity of connecting with that and, seeing it through your little girl's eyes.
Yes.
And just being, taking that outlet or opportunity to say, this is my voice, and this is an opportunity to connect with other young children and families who experience that brokenness as well.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your divorce and go into what that struggle is like. I know that's very commonplace today, and so I think that there are a lot of people who would connect to that.
So right now, my ex-husband and I, we are at a really happy place right now, getting along. We have 50-50. Our schedule is kind of confusing to others, but it works for us. So going through divorce, it was really rough in the beginning. My ex and I, we didn't talk for several months. So in that several months, me working and going to school and taking care of the kids, I was by myself. And then back and forth to court. So that was kind of, a lot. It took, several months before we could even communicate with each other. And it was rough because doing that by myself and going through everything that I was going through. So that was hard in itself. And like I said before, a lot of having a support group and having friends to lean on when you're going through something as hard as I went through, it's rough. I mean, divorce it's hard, and everywhere you go, you feel like everyone's staring at you. I always thought, oh my God, they're talking about me. Oh my God, they know I'm divorced. Oh my God, they know I'm single mom now. Oh my God. So it created a lot of, worrying, which brought on a lot of the anxiety, like I said, that I talked about before. Even though my ex and I are at a happy place now where we can talk on the phone, go to parent-teacher conferences together, it took a long time for us to get to where we are. And I know I've talked to families and they always come to me, even the school, the school will say every time they see both of us, oh my God, it's so crazy how you two are both in the parking lot. Other parents don't have that, but it took a lot of prayer and fasting and working hard at it. I mean, just like trying to keep a marriage or get a divorce or try to do anything, you have to work at it. And I think we worked really hard now at our relationship than we really did when we were married, honestly. So I won't sit here and try to paint that picture, but now we are at a happy place where we get along, and it is beautiful for everyone, and it's showing our kids stability, and it's showing our kids that, both of their parents still love them, and that they can, even though their parents are not still together, their parents still love them and care about them very deeply, which gets me to or what made me write my book.
If this applies to you, if you have any thoughts about this, anything that you want to hear, email us at communityroots.pod@gmail.com. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram at communityroots.pod. Rate us on iTunes. iTunes is how we get spread to people all throughout the internet. So if you enjoy this and you want to share this, or you've just had a good experience hearing what we have to say, you are our best resource. So every episode we like to end with some thank yous and what we're grateful for. So I wanted to thank my mom, who's been sitting here the whole time. And it's her birthday tomorrow, which will actually have been a couple days ago by the time, or no, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, man.
Jeez.
Whoa.
Well, happy belated birthday, Mom. This will get to you a little while. And then I wanted to thank my wonderful partner, Connie.
I am thankful for the ability to have friendships and build relationships and like finding surprises in people that maybe you didn't expect.
I want to thank Julie for inviting me to be on this show to share my story with others. And I want to thank my friends and family for always being there and being my rocks.
We're just really grateful that you're here with us today and are willing to share that piece of your story.
Sweet. Well, we will catch you next week on the regular Community Roots. It will be featuring Adrienne Johnson, so definitely check it out, and we'll see you then.